Namaste to all. Today we'll be continuing with Unit 2 solution. In my previous video, I have already discussed about the different types of concentrations of solutions which you have learned in 11th standard. So now we'll be continuing with the solutions. That is, in our daily routine, we come across a variety of substances which are not pure, but instead a homogeneous mixtures of two or more pure substances. Homogeneous mixture means uniformity in composition and the properties throughout the bulk. These homogeneous mixtures are called solutions. Many of these homogeneous mixtures have great importance in our daily life. Their utility depends largely on its composition. So in this unit, we shall discuss about or study about solutions. So the first part, which is a very easy part, is the types of solution. So before that, let me repeat what is a solution. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more pure substances whose composition may be altered within certain limits. Though the solution is homogeneous in nature, yet it retains the properties of its constituents. The substances which make up the solution are generally called its components. The solution of two components is referred to as binary solution. That is, if in a solution there are two components, that type of solution or that type is called binary components. In this chapter, we shall limit our discussion to binary solutions only. The two components of the binary solutions are respectively called a solvent and a solute. Solvent is that component in a solution whose physical state is the same as that of the resulting solution, while the other component is called the solute. For example, in case of solution of sugar and water, sugar is the solute and water is the solvent. For solution in which both the components have the same physical state as that of the solution, then the component which is in excess is called the solvent and the other one is called the solute. Now let us start with an activity first. Here in this diagram, we can see a common table salt. Table salt is there, water is there, and there is another beaker. And into the beaker, we are adding water first. Addition of water has taken place. Next to the water, we add common salt, which is very easy and common to us. Stirring the solution, which is called brine. That is sodium chloride, concentrated sodium chloride solution is called brine. And this is called a solution. As I discussed earlier, this is a homogeneous mixture. That is, you cannot see the components through the naked eye or through a microscope. It is the homogeneous mixture of two or more components. And here water is in excess here, and so that is called the solvent. And what is a solvent? The constituent present in larger amount is called the solvent, which I have already told earlier. And here common salt is the solute, the one present in lesser amount. That is, the component present in lesser amount is called the solute. Binary solution, as I told you earlier, is a mixture of two components. Sugar is the solute here. If you're taking sugar here, it was salt. If you're taking sugar, sugar is the solute and water is the solvent. Difference between a solute and a solvent. Solute is present in lesser proportion in the solution. Solvent present in greater proportion in the solution. That is solute. In colloids, we use the term dispersed phase. And here it is the dispersion medium. That is the medium in which the solute has been dispersed. Solution may or may not be in the same of matter as the solute. Solution will be in the same state of matter as that of the solvent. So here there is a different types of solutions that you can see. A table is given here. The first column, it is types of solutions, solute, solvent, and common examples are given. So gaseous solution. Gaseous solution, the first example given is mixture of oxygen and nitrogen gas. So both are gases. So here gas is the solute and the solvent is also gas. The second one, chloroform mixed with chloroform is the liquid state. This mixed with nitrogen gas. So here gas is the solvent. The third one type is solid, that is camphor. Camphor is nitrogen gas. So camphor is a solid while gas is nitrogen is in the gaseous state. Liquid solutions, gas in liquid, oxygen dissolved in water. So here it is gas in liquid. Second one, ethanol in water, both are liquid, that is solute and solvent are liquids. Third one, solid in liquid, that is example is glucose dissolved in water. So here also liquid is the solvent. Next is solid solutions. In solid solutions, the solvent is solid. So first one, gas in solid. Example is solution of hydrogen in palladium. Next, amalgam of mercury with sodium. So second, here also solid is the solvent. Solid is copper dissolved in gold. So these are the classification or different types of solutions, which is very simple. Different types of solutions. According to the nature of solvent, solutions are divided into three types: gaseous solutions, liquid solutions, and solid solutions. That is here, gaseous solution. In gaseous solution, solvent is, that is solute can be gas, liquid or solid, and the solvent is gas. In liquid solution, solvent will be liquid, that is solute can be gas, liquid or solid. In solid solution, the solvent is solid, which you have learnt in the 9th standard itself. Next is solubility. What is solubility? This also we have learned in the 9th standard. It is commonly observed that some substances dissolved in water quite appreciably, while there are many others which either dissolve to a smaller extent or do not dissolve at all. The extent to which a substance dissolves in a specified amount of solvent is expressed in terms of solubility. So, the definition of solubility is defined as the amount of the solute that can be dissolved in 100 grams of the solvent at a given set of conditions. That is, amount of the solute present in a definite amount of the solvent is called solubility. Another way of expressing solubility is in terms of, that is, the quantity of solute can be taken in moles or grams that dissolve in a fixed amount of the solvent. Solubility of gases in water is also expressed in terms of mole fraction, which we will be discussing later on. So, solubility can be expressed in different ways. So, the first part that we are going to learn is solubility of a solid in a liquid. Let me explain first. When a solid solute is added to a solvent, dissolution of the solute occurs. We know that the solute starts dissolving. The solute particles go into the solution and acquire random movement. The concentration of the solution gradually increases as more and more solute dissolves. The dissolved solute particles also collide with the solid solute, and some of them separate out of solution and gets deposited there. This process is called crystallization. So a stage is reached when two opposite processes, that is dissolution, that is the solute going into the solution, and the solid coming out, that is dissolution and crystallization, occur at the same rate, and a state of dynamic equilibrium is established. At this stage, the concentration of solution becomes constant at a given condition because the number of solute particles going into the solution will be equal to the number of solute particles separating out of the solution, which we have learned last year. Such a solution at which no more solute can be dissolved at a given condition of temperature and pressure is called a saturated solution. So, what is a saturated solution? A solution in which no more solute can be dissolved. And the amount of the solute dissolved in a given amount of the solvent is called the solubility. The solubility of solids is generally expressed as the amount of the solid that can be dissolved in 100 grams of the solvent at a given temperature, which I have discussed earlier also. Now here you can also define what is an unsaturated solution. A solution in which more solute can be added is called an unsaturated solution. So let us continue with the solubility of solid in a gas. As I discussed earlier, once again, solubility of a substance is its maximum amount that can be dissolved in a specific solvent at a specific temperature. Solubility depends upon the following factors. First one is nature of the substance. Second one is temperature. Third one is pressure. So solubility depends upon the nature of the substance, temperature and pressure. So we'll be discussing one by one, taking each one point. We'll start first with nature of the substance. Here there is a diagram given here. We are adding sodium chloride to a little of water. Here water is the solvent and sodium chloride is the solute. The second one, the same sodium chloride is added to benzene. That is, here benzene is the solvent, sodium chloride is the solute. NaCl is dissolved in water. That is, when you are adding sodium chloride to water, we all know naturally it will dissolve. But when it is added to benzene, it is not dissolving. Sodium chloride will not dissolve in benzene. Here again, sugar is added to water. We know sugar will surely dissolve. Second case, sugar is dissolved in benzene, the same activity. So sugar dissolves in water, but it does not dissolve in benzene. What is the reason for that? Salt and sugar are polar solutes. Hence, it can dissolve in polar solvents. We have learned last year, like dissolves like. So here, water is a polar substance. Salt and sugar is also polar, so it is dissolving. But benzene is non-polar. So polar solutes like sugar and salt cannot dissolve in non-polar solvents. And that is why it is not dissolving. That is, sugar and salt is not dissolving in benzene. Again, here we are adding naphthalene. You know what is naphthalene? Isn't it? Which naphthalene ball sublime. We have learned in the 9th standard. Same actually, some portions you have learned in the 9th also. It will be easy for you to remember. Naphthalene you are adding to benzene. You can find it is dissolving. Again, same naphthalene you are adding to water and shaking. You can find here that it is not dissolving. So naphthalene dissolves in benzene, but it does not dissolve in water. Again, anthracene. Anthracene dissolves in benzene, while anthracene does not dissolve in water. So anthracene is dissolving in benzene but does not dissolve in water. What is the reason for that? I think now you might have guessed the reason now itself. Naphthalene and anthracene are, what you thought is right, are non-polar solutes. So it cannot dissolve in non-polar solvents like benzene. But it can't dissolve, that is, it can dissolve in non-polar solvents, that is, non-polar solutes can dissolve in non-polar solvents, while it cannot dissolve in polar solvents like water. Now, all that I've discussed earlier, it's a fill in the blanks type. The first one given is, the definition given is, when a solid solute is added to the solvent, some solute particles will dissolve and its concentration increases in solution. What is it called? That is, hope all of you are trying to get the correct answer. Is it dissolution? Yes, it is dissolution. So when a solid solute is added to the solvent, some solute dissolves and its concentration increases in solution. So that process is called dissolution. Second one, some solute particles in solution collide with the solid solute particles and get separated out from the solution. So what is that process called? What is it among these? It has to be crystallization. So the next one, at a particular stage, the number of solute particles going into the solution will be equal to the solute particles separating out. So that also I discussed in the beginning itself. So that we have learned last year also. That stage or state is called the dynamic equilibrium. The fourth one, no more solute can be dissolved in a solution at constant temperature and pressure. And no more solute can be dissolved, that is called the saturated solution. So you're learning the definitions also of all these. More solute can be dissolved in a solution at the same temperature. When more solute can be dissolved, that type of solution is called an unsaturated solution. The last, what is left, is very easy. The concentration of solute, the amount of the solute present in a saturated solution is called solubility. And hope all these definitions are clear to you. We'll continue with the solubility of solid in liquid. The second one here is the second factor affecting the solubility of solid is, the first was the nature of the solute, the second is the effect of temperature. Let me explain first. Temperature has a marked effect on the solubility of a solid in liquid. The solubility may increase or decrease with the rise in temperature depending upon the value of delta H. So the solubility depends upon the value of delta H, that is whether it is exothermic or endothermic. If the value of delta H of this solution is less than 0, that is if the solution of the process is exothermic, then according to the Le Chatelier's principle, which you have learned last year, increase of temperature will push the solution equilibrium in the backward direction, that is the endothermic side. In other words, solubility of such solutes decreases with rise in temperature. So some examples: lithium sulfate, sodium sulfate, all on dissolution in water, it is exothermic. So as the temperature increases, the solubility will decrease, that is the backward reaction will take place. Now if the delta H is greater than 0 means if it is endothermic, then increase of temperature will push the solution equilibrium in the forward direction. In other words, solubility of such solutes increases with rise in temperature. Some examples are potassium chloride, potassium nitrate, sodium nitrate. So for when these are dissolved in water, the solubility increases with increase in temperature. So we'll continue with this effect of temperature. Here, sodium is dissolved in water. When sodium is put in water, it is a very dangerous reaction. Nobody should do this because a lot of heat is produced. Nobody should try this out. This is an exothermic reaction. So when it is an exothermic reaction, as I discussed earlier, when the temperature increases, the solubility decreases. That is a backward reaction takes place because delta H is negative. Here, calcium chloride, when dissolved in water, heat is absorbed. This is an example of an endothermic reaction. So during endothermic reaction, as the temperature increases, the solubility also increases. That is, delta H is positive, so solubility increases with increase in temperature according to Le Chatelier's principle. The solubility of most solid solutes in water increases as the temperature of the solution increases. But there are different cases also, as I have told earlier. So there is a graph here shown the solubility of different substances. The solubility curves of, that is the plots of solubility of solid versus temperature is shown, and these are called solubility curves. Solids whose solubility increases continuously and gradually with rise in temperature. Solids whose solubility increases continuously and gradually with rise in temperature. This happens in case of solids whose delta H is greater than 0. Some examples are sodium chloride, potassium chloride, sodium chlorate, lead nitrate, AgNO3, etc. Second type of solids is solids whose solubility decreases gradually with rise in temperature. This happens in case of solids whose delta H is less than 0. Lithium sulfate, copper sulfate, sodium sulfate, etc. Solids whose solubility does not increase or decrease regularly or continuously. This happens if a substance undergoes a change from one polymeric form to another at a particular temperature. For example, dissolution of sodium sulfate, hydrated sodium sulfate, that is Na2SO4.10H2O, is endothermic. But dissolution of Na2SO4, only Na2SO4, is exothermic. So the conversion of Na2SO4.10H2O to Na2SO4 occurs at 34 degrees Celsius, which is not given here. Thus, solubility of Na2SO4.10H2O increases with the rise in temperature till 34 degrees Celsius, and thereafter it starts decreasing. The temperature at which this reversal of solubility occurs is often called the transition temperature. This part is the general information for you. Simply need to go through it. No need of learning it properly. The next is the effect of pressure. Solids and liquids are highly incompressible. So, pressure has no effect on the solubility. Next is the solubility of gas in liquids. When a gas is passed through the liquid solvent, the gas particles dissolve in the liquid. We all know that. The concentration of the solution gradually increases till the equilibrium point is reached and a saturated solution is obtained. At this stage, the gas particles entering the solution phase and those escaping out of the solution surface have the same rate. The amount of the gas present in a given amount of the solvent at this saturation state is referred to as the solubility of gas at a given condition. The solubility of gases, however, is generally expressed either in terms of number of moles of gas that can dissolve per liter of solvent at a given condition, or it is more conveniently expressed in terms of mole fraction of the gas. So let us continue. We can find here there is a fish, frog and the plants. How can they live in water? Because an example of solubility of gas in a liquid which is present in our daily life, because oxygen is dissolved in water, so aquatic plants and animals can live in water. Here, most of the cold drinks or the soda water, we know carbon dioxide is dissolved under high pressure in water or in the soft drinks. So what is the reason for that? Soda is prepared by dissolving carbon dioxide gas in water by applying high pressure. When you release that pressure by removing its lid, gases can be escaped. Gases can be dissolved in water by applying high pressure. Solubility of gases can be increased by increasing the pressure. So as pressure increases, what are the factors affecting the solubility of gas? The first one is the effect of pressure. As pressure increases, the solubility also increases. So here we can find there is a gaseous molecules here, and there is water is also present there. Gaseous molecules are spreading throughout the solution. Here we are applying pressure there. So when I apply pressure there, what can you find? While applying pressure, gaseous molecules over the solution per unit volume increases. So solubility of gas will increase until a new equilibrium is reached. This has been experimentally proved by a scientist called Henry. That is, in 1805, an English chemist, William Henry, gave an important generalization called Henry's law on the basis of series of observations about the quantitative effect of pressure on the solubility of gases. The law states that the solubility of a gas at a given temperature is directly proportional to the pressure at which it is dissolved. Repeating it once again, the solubility of a gas at a given temperature is directly proportional to the pressure at which it is dissolved. So Henry's law, the partial pressure of the gas in vapor phase is proportional to the mole fraction of the gas in the solution. So you can keep your text open and learn the definitions as in the textbook. You need not learn this definition. Whatever is given in the textbook is much better. If you want, you can go through this definition also. According to Henry's law, here P is directly proportional to X. That is, the partial pressure of the gas in equilibrium is directly proportional to the mole fraction of the gas. P is the partial pressure, X is the mole fraction. We can remove this proportionality sign by multiplying with a constant Kh. So it becomes P is equal to Kh into X, where Kh is called the proportionality constant and it is called the Henry law constant. So Kh is called the Henry law constant. What are the general characteristics of Henry's law? The units of Henry's law constant are the same as that of pressure, torr or kilobar. Different gases have different values of Henry's law constant. Third point, the Kh values of a gas is different in different solvents and increases with the increase in temperature. Once again, the Henry's law values as Kh values of gas is different in different solvent and it increases with the increase in temperature. For example, the Kh values of some gases in water at different temperatures is given in your textbook also. So you can refer that. The knowledge of Kh value of a gas at a given temperature can help us in the calculation of its solubility at that temperature. It is very important to note that as the temperature is increased, the solubility of the gas decreases. So this implies that higher the value of Kh of a gas, lower will be the solubility and vice versa. The solubility, the gases when they are soluble in a particular solvent, all that process are exothermic. As it is exothermic, as the temperature increases, the solubility decreases. So, higher the value of Kh of a gas, lower will be the solubility and vice versa. A very important point to be noted. Next is the graphical representation of partial pressure versus mole fraction. The partial pressure of a gas is a linear function of its mole fraction as it is clear from the graph. It means that the plot of pressure versus mole fraction is a straight line passing through the origin. And slope of the line will be equal to Kh. Remember, the slope of the line will be equal to Kh. Aquatic species are more comfortable in cold water. Why? As we have learned earlier, as the temperature decreases, the solubility of oxygen and nitrogen increases. Because, once again repeating it, when a gas is dissolved in a solvent, these processes are exothermic in nature. All the solubility of gases in liquids are exothermic. So, as the temperature increases, solubility decreases. So, when the temperature is lowered, solubility increases. So, aquatic animals are more comfortable in cold water because in cold water the temperature is low and more of these gases are dissolved. Next are some of the applications of Henry's law. The first application of Henry's law is soft drinks, soda water and other carbonated beverages contains dissolved carbon dioxide. In the preparation of these soft drinks, carbon dioxide is passed at high pressure to increase its solubility. Second is the scuba divers. Scuba divers means deep sea divers carrying breathing kits containing compressed air. These scuba divers suffer from the painful effects called bends when they come towards the surface. These painful effects arise due to the decompression of gases dissolved in the blood while breathing air at high pressure underwater. These bends are minimized by using compressed air that has been diluted with less soluble helium in breathing apparatus. That is, for the scuba divers, instead of using a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen, they use helium and oxygen. Why? Because helium is less soluble in blood. I'm repeating it once again. Under the water, there is high pressure. So the chance is very high for dissolving the nitrogen oxygen gases in the blood. Nitrogen will dissolve under high pressure in blood when the diver goes deep into water. When the divers come towards the surface, the pressure gradually decreases. So the dissolved gas released from the blood and forms bubbles. These bubbles block the capillaries and cause pain and danger to life. So they use a tank filled with air diluted with the helium and oxygen only. Nitrogen usually they do not use. Actually, nitrogen is written here. They do not use, only helium and oxygen. The next is bleeding causes at high altitudes. Why? At high altitudes, the partial pressure of oxygen is less than the ground level. So the blood is under high pressure, applies on the high pressure on the walls of the blood cells, and it will break and cause bleeding. The next application is in lungs. Oxygen present in the inhaled air dissolves in blood because of high partial pressure and combines with hemoglobin to form oxohemoglobin. In tissues where the partial pressure of oxygen is low, oxohemoglobin releases oxygen for its utilization in cellular activity. So this is what is taking place in our body. Next is solubility of gas in a liquid, which I have already mentioned earlier. Gas molecules in water, as the temperature increases, the kinetic energy of gaseous molecules increases. So that is the reason why solubility is decreasing. So this part I had explained earlier itself. Thank you.